A friend of mine who knows some of these people sat me down once upon a time in London. He's actually said this a few times to me, but I remember one particular conversation where he says that some of these AI CEOs predict the probability of extinction at being, I think he said 7%. I don't know why I have that number in my head, but I remember it being less than 10%. And the point he was making to me was that even if it was 1%, like if there was 100 buttons on this table now,
Yeah.
and one of them would end the world, would I dare
Would you be
press
slamming
any of
buttons?
them?
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't press any of them. But he made the case to me that these AI CEOs are very smart and they understand superintelligence, and that they think actually if there was 100 buttons on this table right now, maybe 10 of them could end the world. I've heard you say, I think it was on the Daily Show, the interview you did, you said that you think there's a 70% chance of human extinction due to AI.
I wouldn't say human extinction exactly. I would say something like 70% chance that this goes horribly wrong like human extinction, but that's just one of several possibilities. But yeah, basically. Like, for example, possibly the AIs take over and then don't actually kill everyone, you know? Maybe they do something else. Like, just because they've taken over doesn't mean they're definitely going to kill us, right? They might, but they could do something else. So that's why I don't usually say like 70% chance of like actual human extinction, but 70% chance of like something like AI is taking over, some sort of very big catastrophe like that could lead to human extinction.
I guess I've got 2 points there, which is you've been around these CEOs. I mean, you've worked for Sam Altman at OpenAI before you quit. Do you think that they think there's a chance of human extinction?
Yes. But I think that an important thing to understand is that like people sort of believe what they need to believe in order to think that they're good people and that they need to keep doing what they're doing. This is what rationalization is. And so I think that the tech CEOs have like genuinely convinced themselves that like probably things are going to be fine, and that the way to make things fine is for them to keep doing what they're doing. And like they need to like make sure that like, you know, Sam's probably thinking like, can't let Dario or Elon get there first. You know, I know Dario is thinking Sam can't get there first. Elon's thinking that, like, you know, they've all probably convinced themselves that like, oh yeah, like maybe it'll go horribly wrong, but like probably it's going to be fine, and probably, you know, I should be the one in charge.
It appears to me that Anthropic are the only ones that are talking about the potential chance of extinction or a catastrophic event or the real downside still. They seem to be the only ones that are still publishing on it. And now they're actually becoming the enemy in many respects of the tech industry in San Francisco. I'm watching a lot of interviews and everyone's attacking Dario because he's saying, listen, things could go bad. They're calling him a doomer and questioning his incentives. Even with Mythos, which is a Claude model that they started to warn the world about. Again, he is attacked immediately for saying that.
Yeah.
My question is, do you see him as being slightly different from Sam in this regard?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Anthropic and Dario have been more willing to say and do things that are costly to their bottom line, at least in the last year or so. That's an example of it. Like, I don't think that really wins them favors in the administration or among their investors to say that type of thing. And you know, a better example is just the whole fight between the Department of War and Anthropic was an example of them doing something that like cost them a lot of money, and even more importantly, cost them a lot of power for something that like they could have just signed the contract, you know. That said, I really don't want to be in a situation where we're like, which CEO is the least bad CEO? Let's support that one. You know, like none of these people should be trusted with that much power, basically.
Nobody should.
Nobody should.
Regardless.
Yeah.
So on this point of the buttons, you do believe that they think there's a credible chance of extinction?
Yeah, but they've convinced themselves that like it's probably fine, and also it'll be even worse if I'm not doing it. You know, like that's what they'll say inside the companies too. Like the people will be like, okay, well if we stop, what about the other guys? Like they're not going to stop. You know.
Yeah, this has always been why I've had this outstanding question, which is how does this not go bad when human incentives seem to rule the day when you look at history? And all of the human incentives are saying, well, if you're damned if you do, i.e. you're damned if you carry on developing these bigger and bigger AI brains, but you're also then damned if you don't from a geographical perspective, because the United States will lose to that country or this company will lose to that company. So when you just look at human incentives and goes, how does if just purely incentives and disincentives, how does this end? Well, it carries on going.
Seems like it. I mean, there is a caveat to that, which is a hopeful caveat, which is that, first of all, if the world wakes up to all of this, then there can be a more serious conversation about regulation and international treaties and things like that. And that can change the incentives, right? So the government could come in and say, like, actually, here's some rules that you all have to follow. And because they're rules that you all have to follow, then you're not incentivized to like break them anymore because you get punished if you break them, and everyone else is also following them too, and so it's fine. So there is that sort of like ray of hope that like we can change the incentives if the government, and especially the U.S. government, but then later other countries act to change the incentives. But that's not going to happen until people sort of wake up to all of this. The second thing is that even individually, at some point, Dario or Sam or Elon might realize that like actually it's like not even in their own interest to keep racing unilaterally. And the problem with that is it's only if it gets extremely obvious and extremely dire. So like in AI 2027, in that scenario, there's this choice point that I mentioned. And in one case, the AIs are misaligned. In the other case, the AIs are aligned. At that choice point, we have like one branch that depicts the misalignment ending and one branch that depicts like they slow down a bit and solve the alignment issues.
Mm-hmm.
The instigator for that choice point is they see some evidence that their AI might be misaligned and plotting against them, right? So if you actually see that evidence, then it's like, oh gosh, maybe we shouldn't put it in charge of everything and let it rip, because that evidence is staring us right in the face that it's untrustworthy, But if they don't see that sort of very clear evidence, then I think they're going to convince themselves that they need to keep going, But maybe they will see very clear evidence like that, in which case, even if we don't have regulation, they might just sort of voluntarily stop. So that's the second ray of hope. Like overall, I don't think that we're like definitely doomed, Like I said 70%, but like I could see it working out pretty well as well.
What about jobs?
Yeah. So I think I'm excited to at some point get into the new thing, which is the more optimistic, positive vision, and that will have a lot to say about this, because in the prediction, in AI 2027, by the time everyone loses their jobs, there are worse things happening, or like it's kind of like too late by that point. But yes, like just think about it. If the companies do manage to build superintelligence, then by definition, they're going to be able to take almost all the jobs or all the jobs, right? Because it's better, faster, cheaper than the best humans at everything.
And that, again, the timeline is by the end of sort of 2030, you think superintelligence might arrive. I'm trying to think about when we could start to see job displacement in the economy.
We're already starting to see a little bit of it now, but not very much.
Why?
Because the AIs aren't good enough yet. Like they're impressive, but they're not just a drop-in replacement for a human worker in almost any field.
And do you think that'll be sudden?
I think it'll be sudden because of the intelligence explosion dynamics or recursive self-improvement dynamics. So you could imagine a different world where it's gradual.
Mm-hmm.
And this is maybe how it is in a lot of science fiction is, the AIs gradually get better at a bunch of things, and, they gradually automate like this one industry, like pharma, and then they automate like, steering drones, then they automate like driving cars or something like that. But what's different about the real world is that the companies have converged on this strategy of automating themselves first, automating the AI research process. And so if they're allowed to continue with this strategy, we're not going to see like, the robotaxis and like the plumber robots and, the lawyer AIs. We're not going to see that sort of like broad diffusion of AI into the economy happening first, because that's not what they're focusing on first. They're focusing on automating themselves, automating their own research so that they can do everything that they're doing faster. And they want that to sort of get going and get to, very high levels of intelligence, very high levels of general intelligence, and then deploy more out into the economy, right? So by the time it's actually coming for like all these different jobs, they will have had fully autonomous AI research happening for months, maybe years, And that means that like the AIs will be vastly superhuman at AI research, and probably also vastly superhuman at lots of other things, just as a side effect, If you're wondering what this looks like, well, we wrote about what it looks like. It's sort of like this wave smashing through the economy after they do the intelligence explosion internally.
What I'm hearing there is that because the AI will be able to improve itself and train itself, it will be getting better at everything at once, and then it will be released at kind of once. Is that accurate?
But it's not even exactly that, because even if it's mostly just getting better at the things that it's doing, like research, that'll have some spillover effects to other skills as well. And then when it turns to focusing on those other skills, it'll be able to do them very fast.
What jobs remain in such a scenario, do you think?
I think that's actually a political question, not a technical question.
Because
on a technical level, all the jobs can be done by the AIs if they've reached that level. And so it's a question of what jobs are allowed for them to do.
And what kind of jobs wouldn't be allowed, do you think?
That depends on who's in charge. So there'd be some sort of political conversation about like what we're going to allow and disallow.
I mean, in this scenario, the humans are still controlling them, the AIs.
Depends on what you mean by control, right? So do the AIs actually have the goals and values that you want them to have? And are they going to robustly do that and behave as intended into the future? And then there's like, are they obeying your orders for now?
Are they obeying the orders is really what I'm saying.
Yeah. So like even in AI 24/7, in the scenario where the AIs take over and kill everyone, there's a period of like several years where they're still obeying orders and they're, taking some jobs, but not other jobs. And they're helping to make better weapons that the US government can use to like do its arms race with China and so forth. And that's why they're able to get so much power so quickly, is because the government and the corporations and so forth trust them and is deliberately deploying them into all of these positions because it thinks that things are fine. But because these things are neural nets, you can't just like look inside and see what it's really thinking. You can't really tell.
I think this is a really important point
Yeah.
because unlike software where we can look at the code and see what's going on theoretically, with AI, you're saying that we don't know why it's making the decisions that it's making because we
That's right.
can't get inside.
One note of optimism is that it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Like there's a subfield of machine learning called mechanistic interpretability and a broader subfield called interpretability more generally that's trying to solve that problem and trying to take these trained artificial neural nets and piece them apart and understand like how the information is flowing and how the decisions are being made, so to speak. The problem is just it's a very inherently hard problem. If you have 10 trillion connections to look at, you can look at any particular group of them and be like, okay, so this is how like this particular connection works. But like, how do you get a sense of the whole? How do you get a sense of like what's happening at a high level? And the answer is, well, it might be impossible. But people are working on it and they are making progress. And if they can make enough progress, then we're in a very different and much brighter world. I think that it would be much less likely for us to get into those loss of control scenarios if we could just actually see what our AIs were thinking and why and how at any given time, right?
Yeah.
So we would still have the other problems to worry about, but at least we could mostly solve that one.
It is pretty crazy to think that we're building a technology, a brain that we don't understand.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's one of those things where like...
in a movie, like a sci-fi movie, a bunch of scientists stood around this big brain and they're all just like, they're making it more, they're feeding it.
Yeah.
But they don't really know what the fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like obviously a dangerous thing to be doing.
Yeah.
But we're doing it anyway because of this history of how the field has developed in the last 10 years where, people were like, oh, wow, yeah, that's obviously dangerous. Oh no, what if someone else did it and did a bad job of it? Therefore, we should do it and do a good job of it. And now they're in this race where they're racing each other. And they're also under all sorts of political pressure to like pretend that it's not as bad as it seems because they don't want to like anger their investors. They don't want to anger the White House.
One of the key questions we had from our audience was and I kind of asked you this in part, but which jobs are genuinely likely to survive AI and what skills should people/students focus on over the next 10 years?
That's kind of like imagine if you were someone living in Mexico in like 1500 and then you hear that like the conquistadors are coming. You could be asking yourself like, okay, well, what sort of job should I be switching to like survive this transition? But like you have a lot more to worry about besides that. But yes, I think I would say that like if we manage to avoid the loss of control problem and we end up with humans still in charge of the AIs and humans can like say what the AI's goals and values are supposed to be, even as they become much smarter than humans and even as they run the whole economy, then probably there will be regulation that protects some areas. And you can try to guess at what those areas might be. Maybe stuff that's more like judges potentially.
What about podcasters? Be honest.
Probably not podcasters, I think. Stuff like, being a nanny, maybe, right? Like I think that even if there's a robot nanny that's like really, really good, I think a bunch of people might prefer to have an actual human because they might be creeped out by the idea of a really good robot nanny. So you can sort of reason like that. There's also like stuff that might be legally protected, like maybe judges, for example, like are going to be legally required to be humans and not robots.
Some people say, though, there's going to be so many jobs created that we can't foresee right now, like there was in the Industrial Revolution or the internet boom or whatever.
The problem with that is that past technological advancements have been more narrow. They've like automated some things, but not everything. But we are talking about a hypothetical future situation in which everything gets automated. So there isn't any new job that you could do that the AI couldn't also do, except if it's like protected by regulation or something. That's also a thing. But so like, for example, right now there's this sort of like cycle where, you know, the AI has learned to do a certain thing, like write copy or like draft code or like debug something. And then humans who used to do that thing switch to managing AIs or switch to doing the other stuff that the AIs can't do. And that's why there's been this dynamic historically of, you know, new jobs opening up and people flooding to them. But if it gets to the point where the AIs can do everything that humans can do and better and faster and cheaper, then whatever that new job is that you might have switched to, like the AIs can switch to that too. And they'll already be better at it than you.
Because we haven't seen widespread unemployment yet in the economy, do you think people are getting a little bit complacent? Because what I'm seeing on my timeline is a lot of people saying, I told you so. I told you everything would be fine. And when you look at the US unemployment rate, currently it's flat to slightly down. If you look at the UK, it is up. The trend is up compared to last year. We're at about 5% unemployment. The US is at 4.2% unemployment.
Yeah. Basically, nobody has said that there would be mass unemployment by now, or at least we didn't say that. You know, and we were historically one of the more bullish people on AI progress. In AI 2027, because of the dynamics that we just described, the mass unemployment doesn't happen until 2028 or 2029 after they already have superintelligence. Because again, the companies aren't trying to cause mass unemployment as step one. That's like step 3 after, you know, it's like step 1, automate themselves. Step 2, have this recursive self-improvement to get to superintelligence. Step 3, expand out into the economy and automate everything. And so this is really unfortunate from humanity's perspective, because one might have hoped that if there was this broad wave of automation going through the economy, people would sit up and pay attention and think about where all this is headed and demand good regulations from the government. But that's not actually the strategy the companies are taking. You know, they're going to be getting the superintelligence first and then doing the broad wave of automation, which means that by the time they're actually doing all of that, well, it's already going to be moving very fast and the AIs will already be very powerful.
If you love the Dario CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.